If before the season started you thought this year's rendition of the Raptors would be a top 10 defense and bottom 10 offense, you'd be right. If you thought they'd be around 500, you'd be right. And if you wanted to get even more specific and suggest that they'd be a top 5 transition offense, a bottom 5 half court offense, and a bottom 5 3-point shooting team, you'd be correct about all of it. However, the process by how the Raptors have been arriving at these numbers, these placements, has been different. As it turns out, limitations help place you just as much as strengths, and cool thing, the Raptors, with their new process and a burgeoning young star in Scotty Barnes, look like they have the potential to overcome some of their limitations to the point of making all of the preseason predictions look pessimistic. And truthfully, talking about limitations and placements is pretty boring. Basketball is a gorgeous expression of talent and aesthetic, so let's look at how the Raptors are accomplishing things differently a quarter of the way into the season. The warts of Raptors teams of old, as far as process goes, not outcomes, were largely considered to be 1. The lack of passing and the overall stagnation of the offense, and 2. The Raptors' propensity to allow other teams to rain hellfire from the corners. Wholesale changes have been made, and the Raptors have been able to completely swing things around regarding both of these things. For one, the Raptors pass more and with more intention. It might not seem like a big jump to go from 8th in the NBA at 292 passes per game to 3rd in the NBA at 308 per game, but a lot of the Raptors' passes were caught up above the break in Nick Nurse's weave that he would use to put ball handlers in motion. Under Rajakovic, the Raptors' passes are more often putting teammates in scoring positions. A team with a bunch of good finishers, with big bodies, and limited dribble packages is using the pass to get to the rim efficiently, instead of drives. They're also cutting and screening way more often. This has helped transform the NBA's 23rd place team in assists last season into a top 5 outfit in that category this season. And when it comes to the other side of the floor, I had the honor of asking Darko his first question about defense after arriving in Toronto.
For me, everything defensively starts with protecting the paint. If you protect the paint, after that we're going to take away corner threes, and we're going to have late contested wing threes. We can get in X and O's, and I can draw you our schemes when we get a chance. I would love to do that.
Well, he's not a liar, and not only do I wholeheartedly agree with his more conservative approach to defense as opposed to the helter-skelter stuff of years past, but the Raptors have allowed less attempts at the rim this season and way less corner threes. They're allowing roughly as many corner threes this year as they did during the championship season, which is the 11th least in the NBA. The years prior, 29th, 30th, 28th, and 30th. Some of this was always going to happen, by the way. The Raptors boast a very similar team to the one that finished last season, and that team was much better at limiting corner threes and protecting the paint after Pirtle's arrival. There was some momentum guiding the Raptors this way, to be sure. However, the Raptors haven't been nearly as dependent on Pirtle to guide defensive units this season as they were last season. Pirtle has been sublime over the past handful of games, but the Raptors have actually been able to lean into other strengths without him. Strengths derived from Scotty Barnes' change in defensive role. In the nearly 700 possessions Barnes has played without Pirtle on the floor this season, the team has graded out as a better than average defense. By virtue of the Raptors' roster construction, they're always going to have a healthy amount of big players out on the court. Barnes playing lower in the defense helps the Raptors lean into his more bombastic defensive playmaking. As far as stocks this season, which is steals plus blocks, Barnes is 4th in the NBA. He sits behind Victor Wembanyama, Anthony Davis, Brook Lopez, and is a little bit ahead of Chet Holmgren. Existing among the unicorns and former Defensive Player of the Years is a good place to be. And the big change is a role swap between Pascal and Barnes for the most part. There was a time, think of 2017 to 2021, where Siakam was a truly impactful help side rim protector who had insane pop and could cover ground like no one else in the NBA. As he's battled injuries, played the most minutes per game, and maybe had an argument for most overworked NBA over the last couple years, the pop isn't quite the same right now. You know who has a lot of pop? Barnes. Barnes can typically be found in a roaming role, ready to playmake in passing lanes or sweep across the backboard for skywalking blocks. From the bottom of the defense, Barnes can use his elite court mapping skills and feel for the game to read plays as they're happening and blow actions up at the endpoint. He's averaging 3.1 stocks a game. Instead of trying to keep up with quicker players at the point of attack, he's affecting how those same players try to finish those possessions. And on the other end of things, moving Siakam away from some of the draining physicality of the paint is a reward on its own. He's also quicker, more lithe and bendy than Barnes, which helps him navigate more screens and stick the smaller players he's guarding more often now. Siakam has also become less gamble prone as he's often trying to contain instead of play make. That pairs really well with the Raptors' other defensive playmakers. And most importantly, Barnes' proximity to the basket helps him lean farther into his elite rebounding chops, and it also means that he gets to jumpstart more transition opportunities. The Raptors have had a huge jump in efficiency on how they score off of rebounds, and Barnes shepherding more of those possessions is exactly why. He's a star in transition. The role changes have been really harmonious and super complementary. Siakam has been able to play an integral role in some elite defensive lineups, and Barnes even goes further than that, being able to anchor some of them. So, while the Raptors are staring a lot of the same limitations and rankings in the face, they're trying new and interesting ways to circumvent them. It's been a really interesting watch, and here's to hoping they find a successful way forward. This is a video version of an earlier written piece from myself. If you want to get that stuff earlier, feel free to subscribe at raptorsrepublic.com. It is how we keep the website alive, it's how we keep ourselves paid, and it's how we keep surviving as Yahoo Sports and CBC and everyone else keeps laying people off. We want to be able to support the people at raptorsrepublic.com. Directly supporting the company is extremely important. It's what keeps us alive. And if you have the means, we really appreciate it. The free stuff, like the video, and make sure to subscribe on YouTube, all that good stuff. I've been Samson Folk. I hope you enjoyed this. Look forward to more from myself and more from RR. Okay, we'll see you. Bye bye.